Hi everyone, welcome to a walkthrough of the EC310 6-week exam from fall of AC year 2025. This should be the last practice exam that's on the website for you. I'm Dr. Delosier. I'm just going to walk through my thought process for each of these problems and hopefully give you a little more understanding of what's going on. So let's get started with that first question. And this is concerning operating systems and some of the other computer hardware and things like that. So first question, A, which operating system does VirtualBox use in the virtual environment? It's not a CPU, that's a piece of hardware. Not Mac OS, not Android, that's mobile. This is Linux is what we're using in this course. So number 2, based on the screenshot above, what is your current directory? So current directory is going to be found in usually the sort of prompt there is one of the best ways to find it. And it shows you here that you're in EC midshipman at EC310. That's your username and the computer system you're using, and then colon tilde/work. And so you're in actually /home/midshipman/work. But I think mainly you need to know that you are in tilde/work. So either of those answers would be correct. I think this is the main one that we would be looking for is tilde/work. Next up, what permissions do the students have on companymuster.exe? So we need to find companymuster.exe, and that's right here, that line of the output here, and ls-l just shows us like all of the permissions and files in this directory. So we have companymuster.exe, and it's asking what do the group students have for that file. So we can see that students is the group that owns this file, right? So midshipman is the real owner, and students are the group that have some additional permissions. Anyone outside of those would be considered other. When we look at the permission table here, we have the first group that is for the owner, so that's midshipman's permissions. The second set of 3 is for the group, and then the third set of 3 is for anyone else. So we see that we have R-X for students, and that would mean read and execute. That's how we parse those out. The middle one that's missing would be write, and so we know that students do not have that permission. So the next question, Joe, who is in the group students, wants to edit the source code companymuster.c because there's a logic error in the source code. Will Joe be able to correct this mistake? So we see Joe is in the group students. We need to look at companymuster.c. So this is from part 3. This is from part 4 or part D and C here. For part D, we need to look at the group students and see what permissions they have on this. And we see that there's read-write for midshipmen, but only read permissions for the group students. So no, Joe will not be able to correct this mistake. Will not be able to correct the code because the group students does not have write permission. Right, and you can maybe do r dash dash to show that that's what the permissions are for students. So then on to part E, fill in the box below with the command that the user midshipman would run to give Joe the permission to modify the source code for companymuster.c. So we're assuming that the owner and the group are going to stay the same, so we want to give additional permissions to the group, right? And we want to allow Joe to be able to do that. And so we're going to say we want to modify G, which is the group. We're going to give new permissions, so we're going to put a plus there. And then we're going to add the permission W. And we need to give the name of the file that we want to edit, and that's companymuster.c. So that's the idea. We list who we're going to modify there, and you can look up, there's a set of 3 things that we can give. It's either the owner, the group, or the other. So I think it's U, G, and O. And then read, write, or execute are the things that we're giving to them, and then either plus, minus, or equals, depending on how we're changing that. Recommend having those on your exam, cheat sheet. What is the effect of the setUID flag for the file valm.exe? And so if we look at vuln.exe here, it's listed as RWS. So that S here is set UID. And that means when we execute that file, you become the user of that file, or the owner of that file, given how it's positioned here, right? So it's relevant to the, or sort of with regard to the part of the permissions that it's set for. In this case, this is the owner permissions, so you become the owner if we have set UID for that. So what's the effect? Anyone who executes vuln.exe temporarily becomes the owner, and in this case, that is root. And that's a big vulnerability, because then if we hack that program, you are hacking it while you are the root user, which has permissions to do everything. So that's it for the first problem.